Good evening, everyone. I hope you're well. My name is Dr. Charlene Beckford. I am the High School Counseling Program Planner for the School District of Palm Beach County, and I want to extend a very warm welcome to everyone that has joined this evening. Thank you to everyone from Palm Beach, Osceola, Broward, and Orange County School Districts. We welcome you here tonight. So this evening's presentation will be on Bright Futures and the Florida Financial Aid application, and I will not be before you long because I'm sure you are eager to hear this wonderful information. But before I turn over to this evening's presenter, I wanted to read a short biography. This evening's presenter is Pedro Hernandez. Pedro Hernandez is the current Director of Outreach Services for the Florida Department of Education, the Office of Student Financial Assistance, or as we call it, OSFA. Pedro assists in the dissemination and comprehension of nearly 30 states of nearly 30 state of Florida scholarships and grant programs. Pedro has been with the agency in this role since 2009. Pedro Hernandez graduated from Florida State University with a baccalaureate degree in international affairs with an emphasis in economics. Pedro Hernandez has over 20 years financial aid experience, so we're in the hands of experts, everyone. His industry tenure started as a college work-study student at Florida State University in the financial aid office. Throughout his experience, he has held positions such as a financial aid officer, lender representative, and guarantor servicer. So at this time, it is my honor to turn it over to Pedro Hernandez, who will commence with this evening's presentation. And as he lines up the presentation, I just wanted to let everyone know that you are welcome to share any questions that you may have in the chat, in the Q&A feature. We will do our best to answer as many questions as we can throughout the presentation and towards the end of the presentation as well. So please use that chat feature, and we are here to assist.
Thank you, Dr. Beckford. And thank you, guys, everyone, for joining us this evening. Yes, we are pleased and once again welcome an opportunity to share all this valuable information. And we want to thank you for attending and learning more about the Florida Bright Future Scholarship. It is my pleasure. My name, as indicated earlier, it is Pedro Hernandez. I am the Director of Outreach Services, and I will be your presenter this evening. With that in mind, I will go ahead and start sharing my presentation so you guys could partake in this presentation for this evening. Now, what we're going to do is just going to go over the entire presentation as high school seniors for this year. But if you have any questions or concerns, a lot of this information that we're going to be providing not only applies for this year's seniors, but this year's juniors and any further people that are coming up and qualifying for the Florida Bright Future Scholarship. With that in mind, our agenda today is going to cover our home screens. Where can you get all the great information that's going to have all the initial eligibility requirements specifically for this year's high school seniors that need to apply. The evaluation process and the award notifications are also part of this presentation, and how you apply for this specific scholarship is by filling out that Florida Financial Aid application, or commonly referred to as the FFAA. With that in mind, let us begin. So first and foremost, when it comes to all of the information that we're going to provide, all this information is on our website. But want to make sure that your counselors go above and beyond trying to assist your students and parents understand this information. But please understand that they are there to assist you, but ultimate responsibility lies within the student, within the parents, to complete and fulfill their requirements. Yes, we are 99.9% here waiting and able to assist you. So that is why we have sessions like we do tonight. With that in mind, when it comes to our home screen, if you go to Florida Student Financial Aid, sg.org, you're going to come to our website. Our website is full of very valuable information, specifically when it comes to all of our state scholarships and grants. If you go to our website, which is, once again, Florida Student Financial Aid, sg.org, on the right-hand side, you're going to see the list of all of our scholarships and grants. Those are all fact sheets. And the second one down, as you will note, is the Florida Bright Future Scholarship. Once you click on it, you will be presented with the following screen and all the resources available to you. The Bright Future Student Handbook, which there's 3 chapters. First chapter is initial eligibility, which we highly recommend because this goes in detail in all in detail for all of the eligibility requirements that are geared for this year's high school senior, but also specifically for this year's high school junior, which ensures that they qualify during their last year, the next following year. The second chapter is scholarship information. Once you have been awarded the scholarship, how does it work? All that information is provided in this chapter. And how do you work to renew your scholarship? All that information is provided in Chapter 3, Renewal of your Florida Bright Future Scholarship. We will cover that information today, but just to let you know that this information is readily available to everyone, so you can have it in front of you and always have access to it. The most latest and greatest information is available online. Now, we do have, I'm going to call attention to, on the left-hand side, on the second side, you have the Florida Bright Futures flyers. And that is a one-page quick reference guide for the 4 programs that we have under the Florida Bright Future Scholarship Program. For the Florida Academic and Florida Medallion, we have the one-page flyer. For those students who are going into a vocational program or certificate programs, we have both the Florida Gold Seal Vocational CAPE Scholar and the Florida Gold Seal Vocational Scholarship. Those are once again geared for those students studying technical or vocational degree programs. Those, once again, for all Florida students, the Florida Bright Future Scholarship covers all students going wherever you elect to study for your post-secondary education, and we're there to fund you. One thing that I would highly recommend also on this page is on the right-hand side, you have additional resources. And the second bullet is the Bright Future Scores table. This is vitally important because this will give you access to every course that you have taken that qualifies and meets those requirements. We have, once again, all of these resources available to students and counselors, but more importantly to students and parents to absolutely know that the classes that the students are taking do or do not qualify for the Florida Bright Future Scholarship. Now, with that in mind, let's go through some of what are truly the Florida Bright Futures initial eligibility requirements. They are going to be as follows. When it comes to general requirements, in order to receive and to qualify for the Florida Bright Future Scholarship, any and every Florida high school senior can qualify and be evaluated for the Florida Bright Future Scholarship. However, to receive funding, a student must be a Florida resident and a U.S. citizen or eligible non-citizen, and that determination is made at the schools, at the post-secondary institutions, or where your students are going to either their college, university, technical center. They will ultimately make that determination when you apply for admissions and present all the required documents. They will then identify you, and if you are qualified and meet all the requirements for the Florida Bright Future Scholarship and are a Florida resident, a U.S. citizen, or eligible non-citizen, yes, you then will receive funding for your Bright Future Scholarship. Now, there are 2 exceptions to this. When it comes to students who engage upon high school graduation into military service or a service for religious or service purposes that's 18 months or greater, the student still has to meet all the requirements, and then they will let us know if they're going into the military or if they're going into a religious or service project that's 18 months or greater. And then their 5-year period of eligibility begins after the disengagement for those students. Now, does that apply to students that go out of state and study for out of state? No. The students who travel out of state, out of the state of Florida, the Bright Future Scholarship does not travel out of the state of Florida. It only remains in the state of Florida. However, if the students meet all the requirements and complete the Florida financial aid application, those students establish a 5-year period of eligibility, and during any time during that 5-year period, those students can return and apply and reinstate their Florida Bright Future Scholarship for that remaining period. Now, that's also based on the second bullet, which is all Florida students that qualify, and a requirement is that they have to fill out their Florida financial aid application. Once again, we highly recommend, if your students are thinking about going out of state, please complete the Florida financial aid application, and therefore it is one of the requirements, and it ensures that your Florida Bright Future Scholarship evaluation and eligibility period is for the 5 years after the high school graduation, or until you get up to 120 credit hours of funding towards your degree, or if you get your baccalaureate degree within 7 semesters or utilize it using less than 105 credit hours, we will pay your first semester of graduate school at the undergraduate level. So once again, this is all based on if you're a Florida resident and a U.S. citizen or eligible non-citizen, and you fill out that application. And then the third general requirement is you have to earn a high school diploma or its equivalent through whether that's a Florida public institution, Florida private school, or if you complete a home education program or a personalized education program. Those are documented at every school district is going to have a homeschool liaison that will confirm the home education program or the personalized education program for those students. So once again, these are all the general requirements. Now, additionally, you cannot be found guilty of or pleaded no contrary to a felony charge. You must be enrolled at a degree as a degree seeking student and taking at least half time for the Bright Future Scholarship to engage or start the funding process. Once again, these are all general requirements. Now, when you apply and qualify, we will evaluate you and award you the highest level of the Florida Bright Future Scholarship that you earn, whether that is the Florida Academic Scholar, Florida Medallion, Florida Gold Seal Cape Scholar, or the Florida Gold Seal Vocational Scholarship. Now, how does one qualify for all of those? So first and foremost, for the Florida Academic and Florida Medallion, which are geared for the students going into the academic fields, there are basic ways to qualify. The most traditional way is through taking the required courses, and those are 16 core courses. And in those core 16 credit or classes, the student must attain a certain GPA, a certain number of test scores, a certain number of volunteer or approved paid work hours, or a combination of both. And they are as follows. In order for the students to achieve the Florida Academic or Florida Medallion, they have to have 4 English classes, 4 mathematics classes, 3 natural science, 3 social science, and 2 consecutive world languages. That's vitally important because that makes up the 16 core classes that we look at. And in only those 16 core classes, we look at your GPA. So your GPA, in order to qualify for the Florida Academic Scholar, needs to be a 3.5 GPA. And for the Florida Medallion, a 3.0. And yes, we look at weighted. If that is a weighted GPA, it still remains the same. You need to have either a 3.5 or higher or a 3.0 or greater. Now, when it comes to qualifying test scores, students also have to have either an SAT, or CLT qualifying test score. As you can see here, for the 24-25 graduates or this year's graduate students, to qualify for the Florida Academic Scholar, you need to have a 29 ACT, a 96 CLT, or a 1340 SAT. If you're a high school junior this year, these are your scores for next year. A 29 ACT, a 95 CLT, or a 1330 SAT. Now, for those students wanting to qualify for the Florida Medallion, for the 24-25 or this year's seniors, that qualifying score is either a 25 ACT, an 84 CLT, or a 1210 or 1210 SAT. For next year's juniors, those scores are 24 for an SAT, 82 for a CLT, or 1190 for an SAT. Now, this is vitally important. When it comes to qualifying scores and how we receive them here at the Florida Bright Futures Department, is when your students take or register, or after they've taken the test, they can send those test scores either directly to us, which you can do via the 2 testing agencies, the SAT and CLT, or the students can send those test scores to one of the 12 public state universities or the 28 state colleges. Now, if your students are not going to be attending any of those, that's perfectly fine. But still, students need to send all of those test scores to one of those institutions. They go into a test repository. Think of it as a big warehouse. Once those test scores are sent there, we are able to retrieve those test scores and provide the evaluation. It is vitally important to please note that when you receive a test score from one of the testing agencies, whether that's the SAT, CLT, or SAT, they do provide you what's called a super score. That means that they look at every one of those tests that you've taken and they take the best subcomponent score and give you the best overall composite. That is a great thing. However, we also super score. However, in order for us to super score your test, whether it's a SAT, CLT, or SAT, you're going to need to have every one of your test scores sent to us. So we always advise you, when you send your test scores and you have a test score, if you sent just only that test score, we will only receive the test score that you received during that test taking date. That's why it's vitally important to understand. Please send us all of those test scores. Have them all sent to us so we could super score your SAT, CLT, or SAT entrance exams. Okay? Very important. Now, the fourth thing that you're going to need is either volunteer service hours or paid work hours. These volunteer service hours and paid work hours are provided and approved by your district and by your counselors. So always make sure that you have and you check with them if they are approved and the process by which they approve them and the deadline that you need to have these in. For the Florida Academic Scholar, you need to have either 100 service hours or 100 paid work hours, or a combination of both, totaling 100 or more. For the Florida Medallion, it is 75 volunteer hours or 100 paid work hours, or a combination totaling 100 hours or more. So all this information is, once again, on our fact sheet. And once again, it is on our Bright Future Student Handbook and our one-page flyer. So you have this information readily available to you. Now, your counselors and have the by Florida statutes will provide you a report card with in the 11th and 12th grade that show you your GPA for Bright Futures purposes. So just make sure that when they are providing this information to you, especially your senior year, your junior and senior year, you understand the difference that, once again, for Bright Futures purposes, we are only looking at your GPA in those core 16 credit hours, not your overall GPA. Now, in addition to that, when it comes to your grade point average, it is very important that you understand that for Bright Futures purposes, we do look at a weighted highest grade point average, weighted out, calculated to the 2 decimal places. So if you are taking honors classes, dual enrollment classes, AP, or advanced placement, pre-international baccalaureate or PIB, and international baccalaureate IB classes, or pre-advanced international certificate of education, pre-ACE and ACE classes, yes, those courses are weighted 0.25 per semester or 0.50 per course in the calculation of the GPA. So just want to make sure, yes, we do take into consideration your weighted GPA, and that is what we're looking at. Now, in addition to that, when it comes to college entrance exams, we already went over what those required scores are. But how do we determine those? Those are determined for the Florida Academic Scholar. That is the 89th percentile of the SAT, CLT, and SAT. For the Florida Medallion, that's the 75th percentile. And these scores must be concordant between the SAT, CLT, and NSAT. And once again, every year we publish those scores for rising juniors and, of course, for the high school seniors. So there should be no surprise for high school juniors or seniors on what those qualifying test scores are for and to meet the Florida Bright Future Scholarship requirements. Now, when it comes to, once again, students, and this is vitally important, students, you have until August 31st of your high school graduation year. So that means for this year's high school seniors that are graduating for the 24-25 academic year, you have until August 31st to take qualifying test scores. That's the SAT, CLT, and SAT. Now, that's very important. You don't have to do anything special. You have to just take those tests and once again send those results to either directly to us or to one of the 12 public state universities or the 28 state colleges. So once again, that is how we will receive them. We will receive them all the way up through tests taken through August 31st. Even though we get the results after August 31st, we will, if they are taken through August 31st of 2025, those do count towards your exams for this year. Once again, send those to one of the 12 state universities or 28 state colleges when you register or after you receive your results or afterwards directly to us using their code, or once again sending them officially to the 12 state universities, either one of the 12 state universities or the 28 state colleges. Now this is vitally important. You do not have to contact the state universities or 28 state colleges. All you have to do is send them to them. So you don't have to contact them. You don't have to apply for admissions. You don't have to deal with them at all. Now, for example, if you were going to a private institution here in the state of Florida, you still have to send those test scores to one of the 12 state universities, 20 state colleges, or directly to us. Now, when it comes to, once again, to volunteer service hours, each district is responsible for administering the deadline, what volunteer or service hours are acceptable, and how to document them. So just make sure that you are communicating effectively with your counselors to make sure that you are following proper procedure and meeting those designated deadlines. In addition, there are other ways to qualify for the Florida Bright Future Scholarships. If, for example, you are a National Merit Finalist, Scholar, a National Hispanic Recognition, or an IB diploma recipient, or an ACE diploma recipient, you do not have to have qualifying test scores. You do still have to have service hours or paid work hours to qualify for the Florida Bright Future Scholarship. Now, if you are in either the ACE curriculum or the International Baccalaureate or IB curriculum and don't receive the degree, then yes, you have to have qualifying test scores. Once again, let me repeat that again. There are other ways to qualify for the Florida Bright Future Scholarship for the Florida Academic or Florida Medallion. You can by receiving or being a National Merit Finalist and Scholar, or a National Hispanic Recognition Program, or receiving your ACE diploma or IB diploma, and only those designated here, those you don't have to have qualifying test scores. By receiving those, you will automatically qualify for the Florida Academic Scholar. Now, this is vitally important. On our information, on our website, on our student handbook, we note that if you're an ACE or an IB diploma recipient, your evaluation is going to happen your senior year, either late July or early August. So that means that even though it's on your high school transcript, even though you received your degree already, if you are once again an ACE or an IB diploma recipient, we in Bright Futures are going to receive and verify that file directly from those agencies in late July of 2025 or early August of 2025. Therefore, if you are going to summer school or enrolling in the fall semester and your Bright Futures evaluation has not taken place because you are qualifying by receiving any of these two degrees, make sure that it's your responsibility to self-identify with the financial aid office at those institutions and notify them that you are receiving your Bright Futures scholarship. However, because you're an ACE or an IB diploma recipient, that is a late notification. They will make arrangements to either provide a tuition deferment or wait until you actually, or if you pay for your classes, you will then be reimbursed for those classes, whether that's summer or that fall semester. From that point forward, all the notifications should come in a timely manner and you will be paid accordingly. Now, when it comes to the Gold Seal CAPE Scholars, these are, once again, for those students who are going to go into a vocational degree. These are the minimum requirements for these. You must earn, for the actual CAPE Scholar, you must earn a minimum of 5 post-secondary credits through CAPE's industry certifications, which articulate for college, and complete 30 hours of volunteer service or 100 paid work hours. Now, vitally important, when it comes to the CAPE Scholar, those 5 post-secondary credits through CAPE industry certifications do not have to be in the same industry. So as long as there are 5, whether they're in the same industry or not, as long as you receive 5 post-secondary credit hours through CAPE industry certifications, you qualify for this scholarship. Now, when it comes to the Gold Seal CAPE Scholars, once again, this is specifically for students going on to either get an associate's degree, program that articulates to a Bachelor of Science degree or an AS degree, an AAS degree, and then on to a baccalaureate degree, a Bachelor's of Science degree. But it only is going to be if you meet these criteria for the Gold Seal CAPE Scholars. Now, for the Gold Seal Vocational Scholars, you have to meet these criteria to qualify. This is also going to assist students going into vocational degrees, but in order to qualify for the Gold Seal Vocational, the student must achieve the required GPA of a 3.0 in all their high school non-elective classes. They must complete at least 3 full credits in a single career and technical educational program. They must achieve a 3.5 unweighted GPA in those 3 full credits in the single career and technical and educational program. And they have to have qualifying SAT, ACT, or PERT exams. And they also must complete their 30 hours of service hours or 100 paid work hours or the combination totaling 100 hours or more. Now, those test scores are listed here, so we have this information readily available for you so you could actually understand and make sure that you're meeting these test scores. Once again, these test scores, when it comes to the Florida Academic, Florida Medallion, GoldSEAL, or GoldSEAL CAPE, it's an either or. You could qualify either through the SAT, ACT, or the PERT exam for the GoldSEAL, or the SAT, ACT, or CLT for the Florida Academic and Florida Medallion. Now, when it comes to these degrees, the GoldSEAL Vocational Scholars, these are only going to apply towards applied technology diplomas or degree educational program, an AAS or an Associated Applied Science, or an AES or an AS degree program, or career certificate program. So if your students are a GoldSEAL or GoldSEAL CAPE and enroll at a state college, state university, or private institution as an AA degree seeking student, they are not going to be funded. You must either, once again, for the GoldSEAL or GoldSEAL CAPE, enroll as a degree seeking student as an AAS, or AS degree seeking student to receive funding. Now, the Bright Futures evaluation process. Now that we've gone over through the 4 awards, there's going to be 2 evaluation periods, an early evaluation and a final evaluation. And the transcripts are submitted within 30 days after each of every semester. So during the early evaluation, that is your August through December deadline, we receive an evaluation directly we do receive a transcript and do that evaluation. At the end of the school year, the January through May or June, after that, we receive another evaluation. We can still receive additional evaluations, but those are traditionally when your schools, whether you're at a private school, public school, charter school, that is when your schools upload your transcripts and we do the evaluations. Once again, that is where we get the classes, the GPA, your community service, or work hours. We are still going to receive your test scores through the test repository by you sending those test scores, once again, to the 12 state universities, 28 state colleges, or directly to us, and your online application that you sign and that you do online starting October, and the deadline is August 31st for that. Now, the early evaluation, once we receive that early evaluation, we look at all the coursework that you have completed and all your volunteer service hours all the way earned through August through January 31st. And we look at all the test scores that you had taken through January 31st. If you have and qualify for the Florida Bright Future Scholarship, whether it's Florida Academic, Medallion, GoldSEAL, GoldSEAL CAPE, you have earned that scholarship. You do not lose it. The only way that you can lose it is if you do not graduate. So we do not penalize you for catching senioritis. However, please note that certain colleges, universities, or technical centers, they can withdraw their offer of admissions if you do not meet the required courses that you have or have agreed to take on to earn admissions to certain institutions. So just make sure that on the admission side, you are meeting those requirements. Now, the final evaluation is going to be based on all the coursework all the way up through high school graduation. Your volunteer service, all the way through when the school district, your counselors, or the private institutions have determined that that deadline is. All the tests taken through, once again, August 31st. And make sure that you have high school graduation associated, that is, for this academic year. Now, we are going to have early eligibility notification. Once you submit your Florida financial aid application, that application is a 2-step process. You will create a student account, and then you will actually submit an application. This will allow you to always come back and check on the status of not only your Florida Bright Future Scholarship, but all your state scholarships and grants. We will post a lot of information to your account, and this is where a lot of information is going to be noted. For high school seniors, for high school juniors, please get in the habit of actually knowing and taking down and accessing the right website and your user ID and password, because not only are you going to need this for your Bright Future Scholarship, for admissions, for tests, for housing, for multiple things, make sure that you get in the habit of knowing exactly your user ID and passwords for all the information that's available to you. And that includes the Florida Financial Aid application. Now, once again, we want to reiterate that students awarded the ACE or IB diplomas will receive notifications of eligibility determination in the early fall after the list of ACE or IB diplomas has been received by our office. Once again, but those students still have to have met the August 31st deadline to actually submit their Florida Financial Aid application. Now, once you guys are, or once students have been awarded the Florida Academic Scholar or the Florida Medallion Scholar, those are going to cover either the Florida Academic Scholar is going to cover 100% of tuition and applicable fees at a state college or state university. The Florida Medallion is going to cover 75% at a state university, or in both the Florida Academic Scholar and the Florida Medallion, if you're going to a private institution, they will cover the equivalent dollar amount at those places. However, if you're a Florida Medallion student, a scholar, if you enroll at a state college, one of the 28 state colleges in the state of Florida, you will receive actually 100% of tuition and fees while you're receiving your AA or your AS. Then, once you receive your AA or your AS at those institutions and move on to the baccalaureate program, then you will revert back to 75% of tuition and fees at a state college or a state university, or the equivalent dollar amount at a private institution. Now, for all of this information, when it comes to actually how much it actually pays at a non-public institution, we have that information on this presentation, and it is on our student handbook. For the Gold Seal Vocational and Gold Seal Cape Scholars, we also have that information readily available for you students to see how much it pays on a per credit hour if you're at a credit hour program, or if you're a credit program, how much it pays for those specific programs. Now, the Florida Financial Aid application, vitally important, because once you submit this application, it has opened already for this year's seniors. It opened up on October 1st. But the deadline is August 31st of 2025. However, we always get the question, and sometimes it's always asked, but what if I submit my application now, but I still am working on my classes, my GPA, my community service, my test scores? That's perfectly okay. All you've done is by submitting this application is you checked off the fact that you have checked off this legislative requirement or this essential requirement to receive the Florida Bright Future Scholarship. Once again, you will still have until high school graduation to take all the required classes, to receive the required GPA, and to submit either work hours or service hours. You still have, once again, until August 31st for qualifying test scores. But the students that submit the Florida Financial Aid application are also, if you're applying for the Jose Marti Scholarship Grant, the Rosewood Family Scholarship, the Florida Farm Worker Student Scholarship, the Randolph Ocoee Scholarship Program, or the Scholarship for Children and Spouses of Deceased or Disabled Veterans, you have to submit the Florida Financial Aid application as soon as possible, and you will also need to have your FAFSA application online in order for us to make sure that you are eligible. That is the federal application. But in order for these very specific scholarships, you must have submitted this application after April 1st for, once again, to make sure that you are receiving funding, because these are very, very critical scholarships that have very limited resources. So we want to make sure that you are submitting this application no later than April 1st of 2025 for these specific scholarships. Once again, even though the deadline for Bright Futures is August 31st, for these specific scholarships, the same application has a deadline of April 1st of 2025. Now, once again, I already talked about the two-step process. I want to make sure that you know that this is how you create an account. I'm reverting back to our main website, which is the Florida Bright Futures website, which is Florida Student Financial Aid SG.org. As you can see at the very center of it, you're going to have the first-time applicants. This is where they will click, create an account, submit an application. Upper right-hand side, you're going to see the login, where students can come back in, log in, and track the status of all of their state applications and grants. The rest of this presentation is just a sample of the application itself, but instead of going through the application itself, we will go ahead and open it up to any additional questions or concerns that you as students, as parents have in regards to meeting the Florida Bright Future Scholarship.
And just a reminder, you can use the chat feature or the Q&A feature to ask any questions that you have. So far, Pedro, we do not have any questions, which I think is a great sign that you're doing a great job so far.
Definitely.
No questions.
Now, one question. It worries me because either I did a phenomenal job, or you guys are more confused than ever. And I hope it is not the latter.
There are a couple of questions in the chat regarding the reviewing a bit further the volunteer hours and the paid work hours.
Correct.
Yes, I see them now.
Correct. So just to reiterate, the ultimate approver of either volunteer hours, paid work hours, or the combination of both, that is the right and responsibility of each school district and each counselor. So they will set the criteria for what is and what is not acceptable, and ultimately the deadline and the procedure to set those hours. So just want to make sure that students understand that no, you can't just go out there. You need to absolutely make sure that counselors have the ability to say yes or no to certain hours, whether that's volunteer hours or approved work hours, or a combination of both.
Thank you. I see the questions now. I think it took a minute to load on my end. Another question came in. What's the difference between the ACE program where you have to take the standardized tests and the one where you don't? So that's going to be the difference between ACE diploma and ACE curriculum.
That is correct. That is a very distinct function between a student who actually earns the ACE or the IB diploma. They do not have to have qualifying test scores to receive the Florida Bright Future Scholarship. However, if you're a student in those programs and only achieve to have the ACE curriculum or the IB curriculum, then yes, you do have to have qualifying test scores to receive the Florida Bright Future Scholarship.
Okay, another question I was responding to. So it says, so we only need either 100 volunteer hours, 100 paid hours, or a combination of both. We don't need to have 100 volunteer hours and 100 paid hours.
That is correct. It's either 100 volunteer hours, 100 approved work hours, or a combination of 100 hours or more. That is correct. And for the Florida Medallion, it's 75 volunteer service hours, 100 paid work hours, or a combination of 100 or more paid hours.
Correct. And then someone asked a clarifying question. So my student can have 50 paid work hours and 50 volunteer hours as an ACE student. Yes, that's correct. They still need the hours, even if they're an ACE diploma recipient.
That is correct. And once again, they always need to be approved by the counselors or the district that they reside in.
Correct. And somebody asks, is this recorded for rewatching? Absolutely, we are recording. And so you will be able to access the recording however you accessed this evening's meeting link. So it would have been a flyer shared by your school district and or on their district page. So yes, absolutely, you'll be able to rewatch this and re-listen so that you can hear the information again if necessary. And then, of course, your school counselors and BRACE advisors, etc., are available to answer any questions that you may have as well. Okay, I'm not seeing any new questions.
I see one here. If a student graduates in 2026, when should he start the application?
Right. So if he's a 25, 26 high school graduate, then that student, whether they're in public school, charter school, homeschool student, their application will open October 1st of 2025, and their deadline is going to be August 31st of 2026. So that is now those students, though, depending on where they are or how they're trying to qualify, Yes, they are still working right now. All the classes that they're taking, GPA, community service hours, those are counting right now towards the Bright Future Scholarship.
Okay, we have, oh, I've just lost my lights. Okay, I'm 100% a disabled veteran. I already submitted the application and received confirmation. For the FAFSA, do I need to apply using one university code? This is a question about FAFSA. I'm not sure if you're able to answer that one, Pedro.
Right. So we have one of our scholarships that mentioned with the April 1st deadline is for high school seniors, or we have what's called the Scholarship for Children or Spouses of Deceased or Disabled Veterans. That scholarship has an April 1st deadline that students must meet, a high school senior. So, or if they're already in college, they have that deadline as well. So this allows a student who has a 100% permitted disabled veteran in their house as either a parent or a spouse can receive up to 100% of tuition and applicable fees. So that information, the Florida financial aid application has to be met prior to April 1st of 2025 for those students who is a senior this year, or an adult student 23 years of age or less, or spouse that's trying to enroll in the 25-26 post-secondary year.
Thank you for that. Let me see. I think I see some new ones coming. Can you share page 11 again to see the difference between the ACE diploma and ACE curriculum? If you could go back to that slide.
Oh, I can indeed. Page 11?
And then, yeah, and as you find that, a question came up. They want to confirm if a student's GPA has to be at least a 3.0. So this slide will address that part where you are right now.
That
so you
is
can
correct.
see for the FAS a 3.5 and the FMS 3.0.
Correct.
I think it's the next slide that they're looking for the ACE, the one that had the other ways to qualify and mentioned
yes.
merit.
Oh, so this slide?
Yes.
Yes. So once again, please note that even though if you are recognized a National Merit Finalist and Scholar, or National Hispanic Recognition Program, or Advanced International Certificate of Education, or ICE diploma, or an International Baccalaureate diploma, or an IB diploma, yes, you do not have to have qualifying test scores. However, if you are, once again, do not receive those diploma, but were in those programs or taking the ACE curriculum or the IB curriculum, yes, you do have to have qualifying test scores.
Okay. Someone asks, what does approved work hours mean? It's hours that are approved by your school district. So you would present the hours to the school counselor and they'll let you know if they're approved, but they normally have an outline of what would be approved work hours and or community service hours. Someone else asked, my child has taken ACE curriculum. Does that mean she will graduate with an ACE diploma? Not necessarily, because with the ACE diploma, they still have to not only take those 7 courses, but take the 7 exams and pass those exams within a certain window. So with the ACE diploma requirements, it's really quite specific. It has to be courses within a certain group. So I always strongly advise that you sit with the school counselor and or ACE curriculum contact at your school just to verify if your student is on track for the ACE diploma. Whatever question, what happens if you have, someone asked, what happens if you have Florida prepaid tuition and then qualify for FAS?
Correct. So, very important question. The Florida Bright Future Scholarship is a merit-based scholarship. You will receive that scholarship no matter as long as you qualify, meet all the general requirements and all the requirements of being enrolled as a degree-seeking student and enrolled for 6 credit hours or clock hour equivalent or more, yes, you will receive that funding. So Florida Prepay is completely up to the student, to the parent, to utilize if they need it. If for example, the student has earned the Bright Future Scholarship, any other additional scholarships and grants, and still wishes to utilize that, they may indeed. It is what's called stackable. They can utilize both. So, and how I would explain it to students and parents, think of when your student, if they are going to, say, for example, FSU, greatest school on earth. Just kidding. As an alumni. No, but any school that your student is going to, think of them as they have an account that they will open on behalf of the student. Then they will deposit the equivalent dollar amount in Bright Futures funding for 100% of tuition and fees if they're Florida academic, or 75% of the tuition and fees that the student is enrolled for. If the Florida Prepay comes in, it pays for that depending on the program that they have. Then they will deposit any other state scholarship and grants or any other federal money or private money. And then normally on the 5th day of classes, which is the drop dead deadline, the drop add period, then they will come in and withdraw any funds that are a liability to the school, tuition, fees, housing, any of those funds. And then if there's any money left over, they will transition those funds to the student in however the student has set that up. That's traditionally how the awarding process goes for both, not only for federal financial aid, but also these state scholarships and grants, such as the Florida Bright Future Scholarship.
Thank you for that. Someone said, if I want to apply for Bright Futures and I have the volunteer hours in GPA, do I need the test grades to get in, or do I need the test grades?
Well, yes, you need the test scores by August 31st in order to actually receive the Florida Bright Future Scholarship.
And then someone asked if we can get a copy of the PowerPoint. Pedro will share this with the district contacts, and the district contacts will ensure that all high school counselors and all college and career advisors have a copy, and it will be shared on their college and career platforms.
Or also students and parents can go to our website and then look up the Florida Bright Future Student Handbook. Initial eligibility has all of these pages that we've gone over right now.
And I'll make sure to post that as well in the chat before we head out. Someone asked, can you explain the Open Door Grant Program?
Yes. Yes, very important. The Open Door Grant Program is a grant that is available to students attending a state university, or a state college or state technical center or charter technical center. The student can apply for those funds at the school themselves. So in addition to, if they have the Florida Bright Future Scholarship, Florida Academic, Florida Medallion, GoSeo or GoSeo Cape, and they apply and inquire at the financial aid office at those institutions about the Open Door Grant, they can receive that grant. That is an additional funds for students attending technical centers that have a financial need for it.
Let's see, I think I have some ones. How can I have my child do college courses while in 10th grade? So that would be a question for us. So I think you're referring to dual enrollment. And so students in 10th grade, of course, are also eligible to participate in dual enrollment. So we do recommend that you contact your school counselor or college and career advisor at the school, and they can review with you the eligibility requirements, and the programs and colleges that have the articulation agreements with the particular school district. There was a point you mentioned about asking for a certain type of GPA from schools for Bright Futures. Can you share that again? I'm not sure. Maybe it's referring to the 16 credits, the GPA. Yeah, this slide here.
This slide here?
I think so. That's my assumption. But if not, please, put it back in the chat to clarify for us. But on this side, it's just saying that these are the 16 high school course credits, and the GPA is based solely on these credits for these two awards. So that's why you'll notice that the Bright Future GPA will differ to the report card GPA, and it's for that reason, because on the report card, we're looking at all of the credits earned, whereas for Bright Future eligibility, the GPA is only calculated based on these courses here.
Correct. And also note that if you've taken more than 4 math, English, or more than 3 natural science or social science, we will take your best scores that are eligible. So we will take your best grades to give you the best opportunity to earn the Florida Bright Future Scholarship.
There. Somebody said, thank you, very informative presentation. I agree. I think I have another. Do I need to directly submit my volunteer hours to the FFAA? No.
No, we received the right. We received those. Remember, the high school transcript is going to contain the classes that you've taken, your GPA, and your actual hours, whether they're service hours, work hours that are approved by the high school district. We will receive the test scores, qualifying SAT, ACT, CLT from the test repository by you sending those test scores there. So make sure that you are speaking with your high school counselor or director at the institution and making sure that they approve those hours and then submit them as part of your high school transcript, and that's how we receive those.
Can Bright Futures help with any college in Florida like Valencia?
That is correct. Majority of all Florida colleges and universities, whether private, public, they are a participant in the Florida Bright Future Scholarship. Valencia is a participant, is one of the 28 state colleges. Yes, they do. And once again, remember that if you attend Valencia as a Florida Medallion student, you are going to receive 100% of tuition and fees instead of 75%. However, once you receive your AA or your AS degree, that's going to revert back to 75% of tuition and fees for the last 2 years until you get your baccalaureate degree.
Okay, I'm not seeing any other questions just yet. We'll hang on for a few more minutes. If by chance we have overlooked your questions, if we haven't answered it in the chat or if we haven't answered it live, please let us know.
And Dr. Beckford, I see that someone's asking about a list of volunteer opportunities. That list you should be able to get from your BRACE advisor or school counselor within your school building. And sometimes within your county, there will be sites that offer volunteer opportunities. Just check in with your school counselor or BRACE advisor on site at your schools.
That is correct. Thank you. I'm doing one final look through. I think we have everything covered. The last thing I'll do here is I'll drop the link to the Bright Futures website where you can access and it's just floridabrightfutures.gov. That's floridabrightfutures.gov. And from there, you'll be able to find the information that you need, and it will take you to the handbooks.
And I see one last question referring to if the Florida Medallion Scholarship can be explained one more time.
Definitely. The Florida Medallion Scholarship is for those students, if they attend a state university, it will pay 75% of tuition and applicable fees. If the Florida Medallion student attends either a state university, either a state college, one of the 28 state college or what used to be called community colleges, they will receive 100% of tuition and applicable fees until they receive their AA or their AS degree, and if they renew on a yearly basis, they meet the renewal requirements. However, once they get their AA or their AS degree, then they revert back to 75% of tuition and fees, whether that's at Valencia, whether that's at the state college, or whether that's at the state university. Those scholarships are going to pay the equivalent dollar amount at a private institution. Now, it's very important to understand that if they're going to a private institution, it's going to pay the equivalent dollar amount. The distinction between tuition and fees at a state university and at a private art institution are distinctly different. They vary quite significantly. So please understand that the total dollar amount at a state university is going to be much less than at a private institution in the state of Florida.
Okay, team, do we see any other questions?
No, all other questions are ones that we've been putting in the comment section as far as answering those particular questions.
Okay, that's what I see too. Just want to make sure. Okay, well, we have a couple of minutes left. I just want to take this time to thank you, Pedro, for joining us this evening. A huge thank you to all parents, caregivers, and students that joined this evening to hear this wonderful information. Like we said, we will be able to share these resources with you, so feel free to reach out to either your district contact or your school counselor or BRACE advisor for more information. We invite you to attend our next session, which will be on December 18th from 6 till 8 p.m. And we will discuss the FAFSA. So bring all your questions, tell a friend, tell a neighbor that has a student in high school. This will also be another great session that we'll have. So that's December 18th at 6 p.m. And you should see those flyers coming from your counseling team if you have not received it already. And just a reminder that today's presentation is being recorded, so you can access that if you want to refer back to that at any time, or if you missed the beginning, you just want to go back to the beginning and catch that, then you can. So at this time, it's 6:57. I think that's everything that we have. Thank you again for joining us. Thank you again, Pedro, and the team from Broward County Public School that are here supporting this evening. And we hope that you have a wonderful evening and a wonderful holiday season that's upon us. Take care.
Bye, everyone.
Bye.